Welcome to Wakey, Echoes of the Esoteric. S here alongside co-host Jenica Haywood. And tonight we are diving in to a conundrum of sorts. We'll call it that. A conundrum, a paradox, throw whatever label on it you'd like. It doesn't matter. We'll pick it apart. We're talking about the spiritual warrior, the path of the spiritual warrior, and just how upside down this really is when it comes to second level work, leaving behind duality, walking the spiritual path, and how that is so much different from the way we may have previously seen this term, the spiritual warrior, and what it really means. Now, for me, the first thing that comes in when this is brought front and center, this term, this phrase, spiritual warrior, right, is this aspect of the need or necessity to take up the sword of activism, right, and shine a light on aspects of, let's just call it the earth experience, where something is quote unquote wrong. This thing needs help. It's like shining the spotlight for God, if you will, and saying, this isn't quite right. You missed a spot over here. I'm going to shed light. I'm going to scream from the rooftops. I'm going to tell everyone about it so that we as human beings can band together and fix this issue that is so terribly wrong here on earth. I'm going to take a deep breath there. There's so much to say about this and the perspective shift, just simply in the arena of dualistic thinking. Do we or don't we believe that everyone who incarnates here as a part of organic life on Earth is having the very specific and unique experience that their soul is aligned to experience? Do we or don't we believe that? Or do we believe that it's possible to incarnate here and have an experience that you are very much not meant to experience? Because when we strip it all down, that's essentially what we're saying. Oh, no, these people, this group of people, or this person, or whatever picket line you're in, has highlighted an aspect of Earth, the Earth experience, the unfoldings of Earth that is not meant to be. It's simply not meant to be. Jen, what do you have to say about all this?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind is just how it's kind of set upon a pedestal of like self-sacrificial servitude.
Oh,
And
I like that. That's nice.
yeah, I mean, it really comes from my observation, it really comes from a good place. You know, there's obviously you can look around and find, a plethora of areas that you could look at and think that that's not right. That's heartbreaking. That's just deeply wrong that some people are experiencing XYZ, or, an area of the world is in this state, or, one of the highlights right now is different areas where there's war going on and the humanitarian effort. So, I mean, I see it from a lot of the times it comes from this really intent, like good intent of like, let's step up and do something because, we're so fortunate as to not be in that circumstance. And when in this community of spiritual minded people, that tends to be what it's placed upon is servitude, self-sacrifice, in the name of something bigger than you. But as you said, if you back that up and break it down, you have two foundations of belief that this lies upon. And One of them is something is wrong, something needs to be fixed, there's something I can do here to change the experience of others, which then equals, or the other one, I guess I'll jump into the other one, or this other one of like, well, everything is meant to be. And, the way that God has it laid out is the way that it's meant to be. But they're not the same foundation. It's one or the other. And I think people they're either not looking at it deep enough or it's confused on a deep enough level that there's not the understanding that you can't have both of those foundations supporting that or supporting anything. So it's really interesting just to kind of, I want to recognize that I see that it comes from a good place, but also everything that is being experienced in all levels and layers is exactly how it's supposed to be experienced. And that's not to say that, you don't find yourself in a place of humanitarian effort or helping others, but don't place that on a foundation of this spiritual warrior, of this self-sacrificial, I do this because, inflate ego reasons here. I know a lot of people don't take it that way because, again, we put it under this guise of service. But ultimately, if you truly believe that things are as they should be and that there is an all-knowing God or force or, whatever deity that oversees it all or has created all of this, like, take a really good look at how those directly contradict each other.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting the way that you said that. I'd have to even just back up in order to quote you, but something to the effect of it coming from a place of good, it coming from an intention of goodness. Those are the same intentions that start wars. It all crumbles down to the same, in that there is a motivator behind these movements, whether it's the movement to start a war or the movement to take up a picket line, right? That comes from a place of good and whoever the being is that's participating or unraveling the event, playing a part in the cause and effect of the event. It's so interesting, just this entire conversation, especially from the lens or through the lens of second level teachings, right? We're leaving behind duality. We're leaving behind that aspect of good versus bad, really coming into a deeper knowing of illusion as conflict. That's what the illusion is. It's conflict. It's this concept, this illusory concept.
Well, and let's be clear. Taking in this lens of something higher than duality, applying a third force, looking through the lens of these teachings of the esoteric is not at all taking a seat of indifference.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah. It's not backing up and going, well, things are as they should be, so there's nothing for me to do. Let's just turn a blind eye. Which that's typically the argument that I'm met with all the time. If I'm not, the whole, if you're not with us, you're against us kind of reaction.
Yeah.
Like, that's typically what comes forward when this conversation or when there is an opportunity to bring forward this higher echelon view. People are so ingrained in the fact that it's like, if you see the dire circumstances people are in, or the horrendous situations, and you don't jump to do something about it, then you're propagating the problem. And full stop right here. That is not what we're saying, and that has no foundation through this lens at all.
No, and the keyword is do.
Mm.
The keyword truly is do. What is it you're doing to affect change? What are you doing? Are you standing in a line screaming at humanity? Are you part of a movement, posting with hashtags? What is it you're doing that is actually affecting change? Are you actually affecting change? Because if awareness is the change you seek, that's going to be a no. That's going to be a no. We're all aware how there's all kinds of variegated variations of awareness. So what exactly are we talking about? How do you run that to ground? What is it you're actually doing? Are you feeding someone on the street with money out of your pocket? Good. Good. If that is what you are called to do on any given day, do it. You can do it. You are affecting change of some kind. And if that's what's on your heart as an action step, keep it beaten. Awesome. But when it comes to, not even but, and when it comes to these greater movements for change, there's no flashlight needed. There truly isn't. What is it that is actually being done aside from you writhing with resistance, with anger, with frustration, with, whatever it is that is motivating your next step to participate in a post, share a post, do a thing from a distance? Like what is this that's actually happening? How is it that you truly are affecting change? I had someone make a comment or leave a comment to me about this particular topic, and I hate to misquote, I really do. So I'll say something to the effect of, you're telling people not to do what they feel is right to help others. That's how it was regurgitated back to me. I'm out of here. This is gross. You're telling other people not to do what they feel is right to help others. Not at all. Not at all what I'm saying. You have misconstrued this concept in your mind and received it upside down. That's not at all what I'm saying. And it's not me saying it. This is a higher wisdom from beyond and before me. This is not coming from me. This isn't even my idea. I heavily subscribe to this way of being, and a full acknowledgement of what it is that I am capable of in assisting humanity. And how is my frustration, anger, sadness toward I don't even know the word, a circumstance of others on earth, how is me feeling something about it and telling everyone about it to bring awareness to everyone on the planet that, hey, this is how is that helpful? How is that an action step worthwhile? Truly, it's me again shining the light and saying, here is an issue that needs fixed because things on earth are wrong and no one should live like this and people don't deserve this. And it doesn't even matter what group of humans we're talking about. You could enter any number of different scenarios or circumstances into this little template of, I think this is wrong, this has to change. And it's going to shake down the same way every single time. If you can affect change for a mass of humanity and you're capable of that, whether it's a beautiful teaching that will reach the masses and change people's mind and perspective around an aspect of their experience as a human, or whether it's around, dropping food from planes for starving children, whatever it is that you can do that. But don't make claims about doing something that you're not actually doing. Don't make claims about affecting change that you're not actually affecting, all because you think you've been charged as a spiritual being to fight against something. The only thing on the spiritual journey that you must ascribe to struggle against is yourself. That's at the top of the list. And not fight against the circumstances of other people's experiences here on earth, because you're fighting against something that's not even happening to you. In the same way that you would need to have your wits about you and be collected and be very discerning around the action steps that you could take to help those people. It's the same way if you have a sick kid. You have a sick child and suddenly you can't get out of bed because you feel terrible that they feel terrible and I can't. That does no one any good. That is not helpful. You have got to remain in your knowing around what you are capable of, what your bandwidth is, the resources and tools that you have to assist another human being or a group of human beings. And you're not going to do it while you're on bended knee sobbing around something that you're not experiencing. So that's a bit of an extreme example, but extreme usually drives home the point.
Really does. It hits the point on the head. And honestly, this whole time you've been talking, I've also been just like rolling through my mind how nuanced and how many different psychological shifts take place to really even understand the breadth of what we're just getting the essence of, like getting to play with a little bit here in this podcast. There tends to be this justification, the self-justification to then call upon others to take action in a certain way for a certain cause. And again, believe as though if enough of us get together, then this grand change will occur. And it's just simply upside down. I really want to re-highlight the struggle, the fight that we have is always against ourselves. And so many people get wrapped up in this spiritual warrior through broadcasting it, through touting it off as a merit of like, look at what I'm doing. And it doesn't come across this way because again, it's through this idea of servitude. But really and truly, could you continue along on your path of what it is you can do through this lens of helping others and service without telling others about it, without calling on others to be like, you need to take action too, and this is how you should help as well? Could you actually continue along that because it is your path and your path alone? Or does it have to have the outside merit, the outside engagement, the broadcasting to others? Because that's another really interesting indicator that you're not helping to the depth that you possibly could, because it's no longer focused on you, it's focused on the outside. And as you have broken down, there's no ability to change the grander scheme of things, the way that the grand, the grand structure of humanity works. I mean, this has been how it's been for centuries upon centuries. It's going to continue along that way strictly because of the three forces. There's not going to be an overcoming of evil. There's not going to be an overcoming and the defeat of all that is bad. It's just not, that doesn't make any sense. And so I'm just sitting here in all of these different nuances of just like, if this is confusing, if this doesn't make sense, just know it's because there is a load of teachings beneath this to prep and to make those small psychological changes to really understand how this all fits together and why it's both and why we can make change and why we can make a difference, but also not. Also, especially not on the grand worldview.
I'm sorry. I just had the thought of Jesus, because of all of the beings on this planet who have affected change, he comes to the top of the list of people that their names would be spoken out. And at the very same time, how much change really? Are humans still humaning? Are we still massively asleep? Have we come into this deep understanding of who we are, and all of us are now walking embodiments of our higher self with a unified inner world? No. No,
No,
that's not what the masses look like.
we're
And
still stoning each other with
right,
judgment.
right, right.
Come
And
on.
if Jesus could have had his way embodied by humanity, it would look completely differently, but the teachings weren't received. So take here now a human who has broadcast, as you're saying, right? And not even with that same intent of like joining together forces and we're going to pick it and we are going to affect change, because that wasn't his teaching at all. His teaching was about unification of the inner world. Completely missed.
Again,
Completely.
self,
Yes.
not world, self.
Yes. Yes. And while everyone, no, I'm not going to say everyone, so many human beings throughout the course of history know and can speak his name, and humans are still humaning. Humans are still doing what humans do, still being mechanical, still being imprinted by the external world, still really very much participating in the illusion of good versus bad and right versus wrong and picket lines and broadcasts. And we have to change this, right? Because we're so focused on the external world and not the internal, because we're so dedicated to putting our entire focus on what's happening out here and how things could be so much better on the inside if just the outside would participate. So backwards, so completely backwards. I feel like this is a really good place to hit pause and drop in with a part 2 on this podcast. I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to rewatch this. I'm going to gather a few thoughts, even for myself, and maybe questions for you. I would love to dive back into this.
I do too. And I am, yes, expand. And I'm dying to know if there are questions or a specific area that any of our viewers want us to go in. Because again, I'm like, it's kind of hard to hold a single thought because there
Yeah.
are so many fingers off of this that I'm like, we could dive deep in any one of these areas. So let us know, because yes, we'll do a part 2. But if there's anything itching at you where you're like, I just don't get this though, but what about this?
Yeah.
We will hit that. Let us know.
Yeah. Bring us all of the but you said, okay?
Yeah.
So that we can break it down as Jen very appropriately brought front and center. Second level teachings are highly nuanced. It is our mission to simplify and make them more understandable. So if there are areas of this where you're like, wait a minute, this I don't get this part, bring it front and center. Let us know, and we'll dive back in. And how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We're gonna keep chomping. We're gonna keep chomping on this topic because I really love it. It is one of those things that completely shifted for me personally coming into this work. I started my journey of awakening, we can call it, started my journey of awakening as a spiritual warrior, not really even fully understanding what it was that I was broadcasting or fighting against. It was anything, right? You could put anything in that slot. Anything that I thought was wrong, right? This is back in the duality days. Back in the we got to fight against it, we got to fix it, we got to tell everybody so we can all wake up days, right? So it's a huge shift. Huge paradigm shift for sure.
Yeah, that was one of my first. In fact, it might have been the first gateway for me. My mind shifting, my understanding shifting from feeling as though my soul mission was to bring awareness to the great depths of evil present on the planet, and by bringing awareness to it, then we can, you know, fight back. I use that lightly because it was more of, the more we can all wake up to this and see the truth, and the more we can heal ourselves and heal others, and essentially overcome the darkness. And you know, that was my heart and soul up until that point where I had to surrender it to see a whole new, much higher awareness. And it, you know, caused me, I came crashing down. You know, I had built all of my foundations on everything that I had done and been through and had suffered through was going to amount to an overcoming of the thing that caused me to suffer, and to see that for what it is and the impossibility of that and why. Woo.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's big.
Yeah, massive, massive redefinition, psychological shift, huge reorientation that's brought me far more awareness than that would have ever offered to me. So again, bring these, hold up, wait a minute, I need to know about this, because there's a lot of different perspectives to offer here. There's a lot of different shifts that are ripe for the taking if you're willing.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you are so willing and interested, join us inside the Akashic Kitchen, where you will find more of the second level teachings of the fourth way and the groundwork for creating a psychological shift that will open up your life to more than you could have possibly ever imagined. All the product of inner unification. Good stuff. And stay tuned for part 2.
Absolutely.
Thank you
See you
guys.
next time.
Yep.